Hi, and welcome to the sewing site featuring our Sew with Skills series. And today we're going to do really easy, really quick potholder. So this potholders design is a really versatile one in my opinion because, unlike just the standard sort of kind of mitten potholders, you can use this one in a number of different ways. So it's an oval shape on the front and you have two pockets on the back. So you can either use it just with one hand, in like that, or you can put your thumb on the other side, use it kind of like a Pac-Man, pulling a tray out from the oven. You can insert the end of your pot handle into one of these pockets and wrap the other layers around it and pull it off of the stove. I use that for my cast iron skillet when I'm using that. Or you can just use it as a flat barrier between your pot or pan or tray, between that and your flat surface. So a couple of things to note about the dimensions of this. This is really easy to draft yourself. If you'd prefer not to, go ahead and look in the description and there's a link to a template that you can download and print off, of course free, so that you don't have to, really even think about it. Or you can just draw an oval yourself that's about 6 inches in width, 10 inches in height, and this is of course, taking into account about 1/4 inch seam allowance. It'll be 6 inches in width and 10 inches in height. And then to draft the pockets, just go ahead and cut your oval in half and scoop out a little bit here to create the pocket template. So we're gonna also be using bias tape in this, but if you don't have pre-made bias tape, no big deal. I'll show you how to do it really quickly as we're actually sewing this design. You'll also note that I did some straight quilting on the top and bottom layers of mine. You can add that or omit it on your, based on your preference, or do some diagonal lines. It just adds a little bit more of kind of a creative pop. The batting is going to be sewn into the seams, so it's not necessary for any functional reason, but of course add it or omit it if you'd like. But some suggestions would be that if you're planning on giving this as a gift, or if for any reason you ever put your pot holder in the microwave, which is not something that I do. However, I still make sure to make my pot holders microwave safe. What does that mean? That means all 100% cotton materials. So anything that's synthetic, any polyesters at all that you might have on your pot holder, if it goes into the microwave, it presents a fire risk and a fire hazard. So we're going to be using 100% quilting cotton for the top and bottom layers and the bias tape, 100% cotton thread, no polyester at all, and then this wrap and zap, 100% natural cotton batting. If you don't have this, I'll put in a link into Amazon in the description so that you can order some, or you can find this at your local Joann's, or any other craft store typically will have this 100% cotton batting. So, you ready to get started? All right, let's go. So the first thing you want to do is grab your supplies. I'm going to have contrasting 100% cotton fabric, one for the main pieces, one for the pockets, and then of course my pattern pieces. This is the pocket one, and my wrap and zap 100% natural cotton batting. So now you're going to need 2 of your main oval pieces for the top and for the bottom, at least 1 layer of cotton batting. You can add more if you would like. And then 4 mirrored pocket pieces with at least 2 layers of cotton batting. Again, adding more if you'd like. So to prepare the top and bottom layers, you are going to sandwich your batting between both your top and your bottom layers. And so you're going to want to make sure that right sides of your fabric is facing out. So you're looking at the right side of your fabric. If you flip this entire piece over, you're going to be wanting to look at the other right side of the bottom layer as well. And then go ahead and pin all the layers together. All right, now we're going to repeat the process with both of our pocket pieces. So place your batting sandwiched between both your top and bottom pocket layers, making sure that the right side of your pocket fabric is facing out, and then pin all the layers together. All right, and now that that's done, we are going to go ahead and quilt these pieces if desired. All right, so now that those are quilted, it is time to do the bias tape for the binding around the hand openings of the pockets. Okay, so cut 2 strips of fabric about 9 inches or so in width and about 1¼ inches or so in length, and go ahead and iron them flat. And again, this is just quilting cotton. And then fold your pieces wrong sides together in half lengthwise and iron it to create a really crisp crease. You can tell my ironing mat is really well loved. It's all discolored. Okay. Go ahead and repeat that with the second. I never remember to buy pre-made bias tape at the store, so it's easy enough to make it yourself. The biggest trick is not burning your fingers. Okay, and so now you're going to open up each strip and you're going to fold each of the long edges in to meet that crease that you had made before. It should be about 1/4 inch, a little over 1/4 inch. And you can make this wider if you would like, or longer. It's completely up to you. You can go ahead and iron that really well. Okay, and then go ahead and do the same thing to the other edge, the other long edge. Fold it in to meet that center crease. And then after you're done with this, you're going to repeat it with the other strip of fabric. Okay, so now after you're done with that, you're going to fold the strip of fabric in half, concealing those raw edges that you had just ironed in, and just re-iron the whole piece so that it stays shut pretty well. And this will help to, all these creases will help to make a really nice finish to this bias tape once it's sewn in. All right, now we are ready to put this binding on. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to open up this binding that you made, this bias tape, and you are going to line up the raw edge of one of the long edges of the tape with the pocket opening and pin it in place. Okay, so now you're going to want to stitch right in that crease mark that's closest to the pocket edge with a straight stitch, and it's going to look like this. Now you're going to refold your bias tape based on those crease marks that you made and fold it around to the back of the pocket opening. Now you're going to want to cover up the stitching that you can see, the straight stitch that you had made on the other side. you want to cover that up with the edge of this binding and pin it in place. Make sure that you pin it really well. The goal, again, is to cover up that line of stitching so that you can't see it from either side. And now all the raw edges of your bias tape are going to be covered. Okay, so now when you turn your pocket around, you're going to want to stitch right along the very edge of that binding, getting as close to the edge as possible. And you'll notice that after you've done that on the back, if you pinned it correctly, the back stitching is right along the edge of that binding as well. But the side that we're looking on right now is the right side of this pocket. The one with the nicest finish is going to go on the outside of our finished pot holder, that is. Now clip the excess, just like that. Okay, now it is time to assemble. So you're going to just want to layer your pieces right sides together. So there's really only a right side to our pocket pieces, but the right sides of both the main oval piece and the pocket pieces should be together, and pin all of the layers in place. Because after we sew this, we're going to flip this entire thing right side out. So right now I am looking at the wrong sides of the pocket because the right sides are face down. I want to pin it well at these pocket edges to make sure that they get sewn really nicely together and that they don't shift. All that's left to do is sew all the way around. All right, so now that I've sewn all the way around, you're just going to want to go ahead and flip this right side out and push out all of the edges. I also want to make a point that if you don't have a serger to sew those outer edges, that's no problem. Just use a straight stitch, perhaps with a zigzag stitch along the edges to just make sure that these layers don't fray. And just push all of this out really well. I'm going to now take it to my iron to make sure that I press those seams and that they stay really crisp. All right, so now you can top stitch all around the outer edge if you would like to keep those seam allowances down on the inside, but I like mine just the way that it is. And it is complete. All right, and now you are done. So make sure to like this video if you enjoyed the project, subscribe to our channel if you want to be notified of new content as it gets posted, and I appreciate you being here. Please make sure to leave a comment if you have any questions, and I'll make sure to check that frequently and get right back to you. Thanks, everyone.